Are you dealing with chronically tight muscles and no matter what you do, you still feel tight? Hey everybody, Dr. Michael Mash here. Welcome to episode 5 of Whiteboard Wednesday.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you're on YouTube, hit the alert notification.
Today, I want to talk about how to help people that are dealing with chronically tight muscles. And no matter what you do, no matter how much you foam roll, how much you stretch, how much mobility work you do, nothing seems to give you that permanent fix. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why this may be the case. So, 5 reasons why your muscles always feel tight. Number 1, you won't stop stretching them. If stretching would work, it would have worked by now. Most often what happens is, let's take the right upper trap, for example. Somebody has right upper trap persistent tightness. What do? You consistently try and stretch it. And in the beginning, it gives you a little bit of relief, right? Maybe 3 times 15-second hold gives you relief. But that quickly doesn't work. And that 3 times 15-second hold quickly turns into 5 times 30-second hold 5 times a day just to get a little bit of relief. And I want you to remember this. Short-term changes don't promote long-term solutions. It's this fallacy of, well, if a little bit worked, then I need to do a lot. So the first thing that I would do is, if you're consistently having a tight muscle, is to stop stretching the hell out of it all day long, right? If it would have worked, it would have worked by now. Maybe that tightness you're having is, and by consistently stretching it, you're promoting a hyper awareness of the area instead of just leaving it the hell alone and letting that area desensitize. So if you're having tight muscles and you find yourself stretching all day long, that'd be the first thing I'd try and cut. Number 2, and this isn't talked about often, but you may be experiencing chronically tight muscles because you're not coping well to stress. So for example, in physical therapy school, always had this left-sided neck tweak, like the dreaded kind when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh dang, I cannot turn to the left. And every time I thought it was a biomechanical fault, I would rush to have it manipulated, to have it grasped, stretched out, to just get all kind of hands-on care. And what I realize now is that left-sided neck tweak would always happen right around the time that there were big practicals or big tests going on. So it was never a biomechanical issue. It was my inability to cope with stress, with life stressors. And I want to be careful because I don't want to say it's an inability to remove life stressors, because that's impossible. It's just when things build up, if you're having trouble coping with all of these stressors, it may manifest itself as perceived tightness in different areas. I see this in the one-sided neck tweaks, the chronic low back stiffness. So instead of trying to hammer away at it with stretching, manual work, manipulation, maybe try some meditation and some stress relieving techniques. Go out with friends, enjoy social experience. Get your mind off of that consistent tightness. So number 2, not coping well to stress. Number 3, having the false belief that your tightness could lead to injury. I see this issue in the hamstrings. That's another area where people have consistent tightness and they think they need to stretch it out, or they're afraid to deadlift or squat because it may lead to injury. There's no evidence to say that this tightness can lead to injury and that we need to stretch in order to reduce injury risk. So just having this false belief that, oh, I feel tight, if I don't stretch, I may get injured, is enough to keep that area sensitized and tight. When it really comes down to it, this chronic tightness is not really a physiological issue. It could be a persistent hyper awareness of that area, right? If your brain is consistently aware of your tight hamstrings and you're giving it all kind of input for it to consistently remember that it's tight, smashing it, rolling it, stretching it, being afraid to lift, that can just keep it sensitized. So do some things to get your mind off of it. Number 4, lack of movement variability. The body likes being mobile. Motion is lotion. So if we start to talk about, let's talk about persistent upper back tightness, that type in between your shoulder blades where you're just like, ugh, I always feel tight. What do I do? and you may have been told, oh, well, it's due to poor posture. Well, there's very little evidence that poor posture can lead to pain or tightness. What we now know is that it has nothing to do with being in a good versus a bad posture. You want to shoot for movement variability. So you don't want to be in one position too long, because if you're in one position too long, the body may begin to get sensitized to it. So my recommendation is, especially if you're a seated desk worker and you're constantly dealing with upper back tightness, instead of stretching it, rolling it, smashing it, getting it constantly manipulated and sitting there all day like a stiff board, vary your posture. Slouch for a little bit, lean to the left. Slouch for a little bit, lean to the right. Maybe go into that good thoracic extended posture every now and then, but stay moving. The body likes being mobile. The body likes motion. Motion is lotion. Number 5, more of a long-term reason that you could be feeling persistent tight is a programming error. Load management errors can lead to persistent tightness. So maybe your tight hamstrings aren't really due to them being tight. Maybe your deadlift programming or your hip hinge programming is too much volume that you're not able to adapt to, and as a result, your hamstrings are in a consistent state of increased tone. So it's more of a load management error. And when we see, it's unfortunate that when people are dealing with these chronically tight muscles, we're always looking for that quick fix. Well, maybe I just am not doing enough foam rolling. Maybe I'm just not doing enough stretching, or maybe I'm not just doing enough trigger point release, when I think we're really missing the boat on these things that really could be keeping an area consistently tight. If you want to conclude, stop stretching the hell out of it so frequently. Work on mindfulness techniques to ramp down your stress. Don't be so concerned that the tight muscle can lead to injury. Train within the range of motions that you have. Stay moving throughout the day. Don't assume one posture for too long, and make sure your programming is optimized. This is why you may be consistently dealing with tight muscles. Thanks for watching this Whiteboard Wednesday.